All right, everybody, Joe White here from Get Life Coaching. Want to jump on here, and an interesting thing happened today at work. And I've heard this in 21 years, this format, so many times. And someone was struggling because someone broke up with them. And the person was sitting on my couch. Hello, Barbara, said to me, well, he said, she hurt me. And I said, well, how did she hurt you, right? He said, well, she broke up with me. She ended the relationship. She hurt me. And I hear that so often. Like, I'm feeling something because someone did something to me, right? And Alanka, hello, love. And Alicia, welcome, welcome. And I said to the person, I said, well, how did she hurt you? Did she punch you? And she's like, no. I'm like, then she didn't hurt you. She made a decision and you're hurting because of it. He goes, no. No, she hurt me. It's her fault. I said, no, you're hurting because of the decision. See, no one can hurt you. Like if someone punched you in the face, right? That you're being a victim in that moment. But victimization language is when you get stuck in that track, when you think something has happened to you, okay? And what happens is there's no empowerment in being a victim. So I'm going to sound like that scene from Rocky that we tried breaking through the barrier where he said, where Rocky talks to his son. But it's really true, right? Because we have to take full responsibility for everything in our lives. Now, the word responsibility has nothing to do with blame or fault, but we got to own our part to it, right? And when we don't do that, we give up our ability to be empowered. But God, victimization language is so nice, isn't it? I mean, people come up to you, people say, yeah, that person's a jerk, or that shouldn't have happened, that's not fair, and they rally around you and they fill you up and it feels really good. But it keeps you stuck, right? You have to understand the only path through of getting anything you want is taking full responsibility for your life, right? That is the absolute truth. But it's hard, right? It's hard because it's easier to blame. Blame people for why you don't have what you want. Blame the economy, blame the president, blame the ex-president, blame this, blame that. But the end of the day, it's about stepping up and taking full responsibility for your life. And there's only 4 things, guys, 4 simple things we can do. That's under our control. What we think, what we say, we feel, and we do. So my challenge for you is pay attention to your language patterns, right? I'm real big on language because most people don't think about the words they say. First dates, job interviews, things like that they do. But most of the time we just open our mouth and words come out. And people say, I didn't really mean to say that, or I was just kind of joking. But people's words, language patterns are like an MRI to their subconscious map, how they see the world. And if you catch yourself saying something like craptastic, like, why is this always happening to me, right? If you catch yourself saying that, I guarantee you've said it to yourself subconsciously 10,000 times before you picked up on the first time. So we got to begin to become aware of the language we're programming ourselves, right? That keeps us enslaved to where we want to go. Right? And it's hard at first because we just open our mouth and stuff comes out. So I create this little thing called the Language Reframe. It's such a simple tool because the first step is awareness, but then you got to break that pattern and build a new pattern. And I'm back. The phone rang. It came back from a time when I lived in New York, I was in my addiction, and I stole from the nightclub, right? I found this ingenious way to steal. And I had like maybe 2, 3, 4 years clean. I would tell this story, how like, oh yeah, I was the only male waiter and I was able to do this, right? I don't even want to get into it, right? Because I'm embarrassed of it. But I told it like, look how clever I am. And I caught myself saying like, I'm like trying to change my life, get off of drugs, turn a page, become a different person. And I'm here bragging about how I was able to not steal from the obvious soda gun and work the deal out with the bartenders. And I'm like, I can't do that. But like, I sometimes I open my mouth, I'm already in it before I catch myself, right? So the language reframe is if you say something out loud or if you think of it in your head. So you're driving down the highway and you start doing some inside self-talk, right? Or outside self-talk, like some people do, like me. First thing you have to do is correct yourself. And I usually just kind of make a joke about that, right? So if I'm saying something that's not serving me, I might say something to the effect of like, I just don't think I can, no, okay, I'll give it a try. I'll give some wussy language like that. And I'll say, wait a minute, did I say try? I didn't mean to say try, right? And then you say the positive or what you want to say. Now, when you do that, it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I can do anything. Like if you're not good at something and you say, well, I'll give it a try. I mean, what I meant to say was, I can do anything. If you go too far out, the brain kicks in and goes, that's bullshit. You can't do it. And it doesn't work. So two quick ways of doing that is A, add the word yet, right? I don't know how to do that yet. I'm struggling to get better at this. I'm sorry. I have yet to achieve, because yet presupposes the chance of doing it. The other way is to say, I'm learning. I'm learning to get better at public speaking. I'm learning to get better at relationships, because I'm learning is a transition word and it talks about progress and movement versus static language patterns. Right? So going back to bragging about me stealing, right? I remember one time I just said to the person, wait a minute, I'm really embarrassed by this and I don't want to say, I shouldn't have done that and I shouldn't be talking about that. Now here's a cool thing. Once you start doing the language reframe, it takes about 10 to 14 days. That's it. 10 to 14 days and you will start auto-correcting without even trying. So in other words, I've had clients come in and they'll be saying something and they'll be saying like, oh, I just don't know. I haven't done that yet. And they just keep talking. I said, wait a minute. A few moments ago, you said, I don't know how to do that. And you change it. You edit yourself. Did you do that intentionally or unintentionally? And they're like, what did I do? Right? It becomes that quick. Because whatever you tell yourself consistently, you will become. That's the power of the subconscious mind. It doesn't matter, right? A little earlier, I saw something that Barbara was talking about, a cognitive dissonance with words like always and never, right? And like, oh, I could never do that. In NLP, that's called universals. I can never do that. I always fail, right? Not the things you want to say in situations that you're stuck in, or you're not as good as you want to be, or you're not where you want to be, right? But those words work brilliantly on the other side, right? So it's great to say, I will, like one of my core beliefs is I will always find a way, right? It's one of my absolute, like, die-hard core beliefs. It got me in getting me through this and got me through some of the worst periods of my life. But I will always find a way. Now, in reality, have I always been successful? No. Sometimes it's checkmate and reset, okay? But here's how I look at this, right? I'd rather tell myself there's always a way and have my brain engaged looking for an option and occasionally be right than to say there's never a way and almost always be wrong. I'm willing to take the hits once in a while. So we got to pay attention to our language of victimization, right? And victimization is life happening to me. I am this way because of this. This person makes me feel. If you use that phraseology, blank makes me feel, blank causes me X, right? Then you know what? You're in a victim language. It's not sometimes the typical victimization language like, oh, nothing ever goes my way. Sometimes it's so sublime, it doesn't even seem that way, right? It's not obvious. So by being aware of this, it helps you to move forward. Carol Ann writes the dreaded words, why me? Well, really, Carol, and the word there is why. See, why invokes story. Why does my life suck? Right? Right? Your brain is going to go searching for an answer. And if there is no answer and you believe that question enough, your brain will make stuff up. So what I teach about the word why is when you're looking at things which are negative, like don't ask the word why. right? It's almost like, have you ever been upset or you made this mistake and someone was angry? And I'll be like, Barb, why are you angry? And she goes, you want to know why I'm angry? I'll tell you why I'm angry, right? And the more they tell you the reason why, the more angry they get, right? So I teach this to new coaches. Don't ask the why question, because you're going to get a fire hydrant. You're going to get every story to back it up. When looking at negative things that you're struggling with, how or what questions, right? What specifically can I do to change? What am I missing? How can I become better? Those words, you'll still get obviously some story, but the lane is much more narrower. Now, here's a cool thing. On the positive side of things, right? Why is a great question, right? Why not me? I love that question. I stole that off of someone, right? I forget who it was, but it basically said, I see all these other people successful. I say, why me? Why me? And eventually the person goes, well, why not me? If they can do it, I can do it too, right? Why am I so grateful today? I don't know. But if you say that with enough conviction, your brain will find out answers. Why do I know beyond a shadow of a doubt I can find a way through this? Powerful question. Now the how and what questions, they work great too. So if you're going into the why questions, avoid them with the negative stuff, right? If you're a coach, if you're a leader, if you work with people, why are you struggling with this, right? Probably not the question that you want to ask, right? Maybe the question you want to ask is, what do you need to do to change? Or what do you need to focus on? Or how can you make this even better? So what resources do you have available that you're not noticing already? So there's a lot of great questions with that. So Carol Ann, thank you for that. Great point with that. So my ultimate key here is to jump on and talk a little bit about how we get caught up in this pattern of being a victim. And again, if you believe that life has happened to you, and I don't want to be offensive here, and I'm a male, right? I have never been sexually molested as a child. As most men, I don't fear being raped, right? Women do. It was probably like maybe 12, 15 years ago, there was a serial rapist going around Wilmington. I remember every night walking women out to the car, right? Because they didn't feel safe. But I had this person come to one of my seminars, and she was raped on a date. She was probably like 18, and she couldn't get past it. And now she's married or engaged and on the verge of getting married, and her relationship is falling apart because she can't trust. And it was at my seminar, Ultimate Breaking Through the Barrier. And I remember telling her that she has to stop being a victim, right? And immediately at that moment, her mom was there too. The mom gave me the eyes, right? And look, I can't even imagine what it feels like to be violated. And I had the utmost disdain for anyone that hurts any human being in any way, especially sexually, right? But what I share with her is at some point after the abuse, sooner than later, but I don't know when, right? It's not a time. It's not the next day. It's not the next moment. But at some point, you got to take your power back, right? Because too many people who've been abused, right? They end up staying in that mindset and they can't break free of that. I get them all the time at my seminars, at Breaking Through the Barrier, at my coaching. And it's not that they don't want to. They just get stuck there because that pattern feels familiar. It feels comfortable, not desirable, but it's what they know. And what I always say is by staying there, you allow that asshole to continue to manipulate, rape you, harm you, control you. And I remember she broke down in tears, and then the mom got angry at me, right? So I was doing this double intervention, right? Because I know what the mom was. The mom was also feeling powerless, a victim to the situation, because she wasn't there to protect her daughter. And now they create this symbiotic relationship, right? Where they both are codependent on each other in a negative way of meeting their emotional needs. Negative means like a high level but low grade, like diving in a dumpster. And I mean, they love each other. They're both great people. And And she had a breakthrough when I said, she goes, how do I do that, Joe? This is the only thing I know to do here. And I said, you have to find a meaning that serves you. And her mom was like, there is no meaning to serve her. And then I said, well, then she's effing stuck and so are you. But I like to believe that there's always a way. And the daughter went, well, what could it be? I said, well, here's my personal belief, see if this fits. I don't necessarily always believe that everything happens for a reason, but I do believe that everything here is to serve you. She goes, well, I don't know how this serves me. I said, well, I think that's your job, is to figure it out. Because the worst thing that could happen is you get raped and that destroys your life. But sometimes in life, and I connected it with a story from my life, that sometimes if you take that worst moment and you believe and you find the gift in that moment, it doesn't make it go away. I think it just kind of makes it a little bit better, but then you get to focus on the good that it gives. And I spoke to her like a year later. She was happily married. I think she was expecting. And I said, so what, did you find the gift? She goes, I did. I said, what was it? She said, I talk to young girls now. I talk to young girls who's been sexually assaulted. And I said, what do you share with them? I say, I share with them that you can get through this. She said, basically, I took what you said and just put it in my own words. I said, how does it feel? I said, it feels great. There was a case study in California. I saw a documentary about it. And it was a woman, she was raped. And the police did all the stuff, couldn't find anybody, right? And she kept looking at the news, like the police blotter, looking for anybody or anything that could resemble her rape so she could alert the police. And she would alert the police, and it was all dead ends. And eventually got a little frustrated with her, not because the police didn't care, but you can imagine the volume of work that they get, right? And they had to unfortunately relegate it to the cold case file. But one day she saw something in the newspaper. She called, and a rookie police officer who didn't know who she was picked up the phone, took down information, investigated, and only to find that that rapist was not her rapist. But in the investigation, that rookie police officer discovered who the rapist was. Hallelujah. They took it to the district attorney. They looked at the case, and they said, oh my God. They said, what? I said, we just missed by 6 months the statute of limitations. I mean, how defeating that must be, right? You push and you push. You just want freaking justice. How much? At that point, if she just said, F everyone, life happened to me, I've been screwed. I know the truth here, but part of me oh my God, that's awful, right? She didn't stop. It was back when Governor Brown, and I think Governor Brown was before the Schwarzenegger years in California, and she started pushing for a change in legislation. She testified in front of the state Supreme Court, and her message was, and what they eventually passed a law that says, I think it's 3, could be 2 years, that even though in her case it was a DNA match, right? When they found the perpetrator, there was a DNA match. But again, the statute of limitation has expired. So the law passed that no matter how many years beyond the statute of limitation, if or when there's a DNA match, they have an additional 2 or 3 years to prosecute the rapist. Right? I mean, how powerful is that? I'm getting emotional, right? And I tell this story a lot, but it's so, just her determination and her refusal to be a victim, right? And my favorite part of the story is at the very end, she's sitting in her backyard, rose garden, and they interviewed her and they said, what an incredible journey. How do you feel now, when it's all done? And her answer was beautiful. She said that, obviously it's not that I wish I was never raped, it was one of the worst things I experienced. However, I think about, because of my rape and the legislation that was passed, that the hundreds or thousands of women will now have their opportunity for justice. That makes me happy. That is a good thing. Whew, man, that was a lesson for me, right? A lesson of that there is no empowerment in being a victim, and you have to live in that empowered state. And sometimes in life, it feels like the weight of the world is pushing down on you. But as with anything, whether it feels like it or not, you have a choice. You have a choice. Do you just blame, or do you become empowered and find the gift in the moment? Because I didn't make that up, right? Everything serves something, right? There's always a benefit to something. It's nature, right? Nothing in nature exists because it exists by itself. Everything kind of serves everything else at some level. So if you go through something terrible, it has to have a positive impact somewhere else. We have a question here. So how do you find the good in the stresses in your life? Two-part answer here. Number one, and I'll say this jokingly, right? Because it's probably not the best NLP language. Stop stressing, right? Stressing is trying to control what's not under your control. Okay? Look, there's natural stresses, natural worries in life, right? But like that, if you look at everything that you stress out about, most of it's not under your control. I stress out about COVID, not under your control. I know about the riots, not under your control. The president, the next president, whatever, not under my control. Will my spouse not cheat on me? Not under your control. So stress, worry, anxiety are all of the brain to rebalance control. Now, I know what people think here, okay? Like, well, how does stress give me that feeling of control? Because it just makes me feel worse. Because in your head, what's happening is you're showing all these scenes of worst case scenarios. Well, even though those worst case scenarios makes you feel bad, right, or not good, you're controlling them. You're the monkey behind the projector going, forward, reverse, next one, forward, reverse. And because you're controlling these worst case scenarios from a psychological needs foundation, it meets those needs, right? Now, here's probably the biggest damage, right? As I said earlier, there's 4 things under our control. We can control what we think, what we say, we feel, and we do. Now, people say to me, but it's hard. Easy or hard, it doesn't matter, right? These are difficult times. But if you don't take control of what you think, say, feel, and do, like in business right now, you won't have a business, okay? So easy or hard never matters. Those things are constant. What you think, say, feel, and do. Everything else has a degree of influence. Control is binary. It's like pregnancy. You're either pregnant or not. Control, you have it or you don't. And again, out of those 4 things, everything else is a degree of influence. So if any of us on this call today would sell all of our stocks tomorrow at the opening bell, it won't move the market unless you're like a super billionaire and I don't know about it and we should talk, right? But it doesn't move the market. If Warren Buffett sells his airlines positions, it moves the market, right? So we sell our investments, our 401k, our funds, right? It's like putting a drop of water in the ocean and expecting it to rise. Watch out. We might get a tsunami. Nothing happens. But again, here's where we go off course, right? We try to control what we can't control. Again, other people, right? Situations, outcomes at times, politics, COVID, job, money, because, God, I was going to do a short one here. You can't control how much money you make, right? I fight with people all the time, I seminar, and I win all the time because this is the truth. In order for me to make money today, I got Kathy here in front of me, right? Because people say, I can control how much money I make. You cannot control how much money you make. You can control your activity and your strategy and how hard you work and hustle, but you can't control the money because in order for me to make money today, someone has to say the word yes. Or I could work for Kathy and I could go into work, she goes, you're fired. So we live under this illusion of control, but it's not control. So what happens is we stress about all this stuff and we try to control. Come on, how many people out there try to control your relatives, try to control your mom, or maybe they're like you, right? They're trying to control you. And you spend all this focus here, and then you neglect the stuff that's under your control. Think about that. You focus all your energy on the stuff that's not under your control. And it's kind of like what the Allies did in Normandy. They sent all these, it was these literally blow up tanks, thousands of them. And they put them on one of the borders to France. And Hitler saw them, and Hitler was determined that the Allied forces were going to attack that way. And with a smaller group than what was proposed, right, that's when the Allies stormed Normandy, and it turned the war, right? Same type of thing. You have all your energy, he had all his energy focused on these fake tanks, and he was neglecting where the attack really was. We put all of our energy focusing on stuff that's not under our control. We ignore those things that are under control. We pay our price. Here's what we need to do. You got to take control of those things that are under your control and then create strategies for those things that are not under your control. Right? Take control of what's under your control. Think, say, feel, do. And build strategies for the things that are not under your control. So how do you find good? That's the question. How do you find good with the stresses of the world? Stop stressing. Number 2, ask yourself better questions. And if you missed the earlier part of this, watch it when the replay goes up. Because if you're asking questions like, why is this happening to me? Why is life so unfair? Your brain's going to come up with an answer. So you'd be much better off saying questions like, how can I change this? Or what am I grateful for? Or what do I appreciate? What is God trying to teach me in this very moment? How can I gain more empathy, more understanding? Where's my gift? I love that question. Where is my gift? When I go through stuff, that's a question, because I coach all the time now, right? 21 years, like 100,000 people like that. I forget how many continents I've been on and countries and all that great stuff, right? So I have Coach Joe inside my head. He talks to me in the shower. I know it sounds odd, but it works. But sometimes this question comes out, right? So I was going through a crappy moment. It was a couple years ago. A lot of stuff was happening to me. And my brain went, so where's the gift? I'm like, there's no effing gift, right? Because I didn't want to look at the gift. But it's always there. And that's where you need the compassion for yourself, the love, the honesty, and the courage to dig in. Right? Because life is what you focus on it. Right now, you could be focusing on how crappy it is or how uncertain it is. But there are children being born in this world every minute. Right? New lives. There are people creating new technology because in great challenges and strife, there's always a technological boom. Right? There's always an advancement. And that's happening. You can focus on how for decades, we said the youth don't care about anything. They're damn millennials. Well, whether you agree with them or not, they are caring about something right now, right? There's so much to focus on. And the best way to describe it is like a camera lens, right? It's like, here's my camera. Whatever I focus on, the lens is going to see. Everything outside the lens doesn't exist. So my good friend Alanka, if Alanka and I was standing next to each other and Kathy, because her name pops up, took a picture and cropped me out and just Alanka, nobody would know I was there, right? So it's a little bit like a muscle. You got to build it up. But by asking better questions, higher quality questions, you're able to direct your focus. So if you don't like where you're at or what you're seeing in life, ask a better question to change your focus. And sometimes you don't want to, trust me, right? What am I grateful for? I am grateful for nothing. Okay, just keep asking it. You get it, right? That's kind of my conversation I have myself. Kathy, this must be the topic for today, for I said the same thing as someone else today. Well, Kathy, you must have sent it out to the universe and I must have picked it up. I was just going to talk about being a victim, and I got a notification here. Let me turn it off. And I don't know how long ago. I'm still doing this. So, yeah. So thank you if you sent it to me. So there we go. So if you missed some of it, rewind this when it goes up there. If you're interested and you're stuck and you kind of want to work on some stuff, right? Just so I offer a complimentary coaching session, right? That's a pitch. Just go to calljoewhite.com form, fill it out. I'll reach out to you, right? Calljoewhite.com. And that's it. So I hope you got some value today. If you did, the only thing I ask when I do this stuff, right, is just share it. Like, share it on your news feed, because you may not be stuck here, but someone on your news feed may be. And one of the things I know after 21 years, I've been doing these videos for a long time, is when people share it, sometimes the person that meant to see it, sees it. And it changes their life and it impacts them. So if you want to show a little gratitude, or you've been impacted or touched by something in this, then please share it on your board. So until next time, I will, Kathy goes, I highly recommend the Firewalk. So do I. Hopefully we can do it soon. Thank you for your time, everybody. I hope I've been able to serve. And until next time, this is Joe White. Have a great evening. Namaste. And of course, come on, Kim, say it with me. Rattle the cage. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great night.